Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon McGrover.
And I'm Mackelly Ray.
We'll be your guides on a journey as we venture through, chapter by chapter, the books of The Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. I thought we could introduce each other first. I'm kind of springing this on Mackelly, so I'll go first.
All right.
Mackelly, we've been friends for 13, 14 years. Mackelly's a very nice guy. He's taller than me. I don't like that. He's a good basketball player. He's got a lovely family, and he's a good friend. And I think my wife has made this point to me before that I think he's a particularly good friend because he laughs at my jokes. Now, I have noticed that he laughs at everyone's jokes, so that does undermine.
But the hardest. I laughed harder at your jokes.
Okay. I'll give you that.
I don't use my fake laugh as much.
So, yeah, that's Mackelly.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have anything prepared, but
said I was springing it on you.
You've said much about our friendship. It's been since my son was in preschool, who's now in college, and your son was in diapers, I believe.
Yeah.
And
he's in high school.
Yes, he's no longer in diapers. He is in high school. Yes, Simon is a lot of fun. He's a really good friend. And he is Argentinian, if you can't tell by his accent.
Argentine.
Yeah, sorry. He hails from the UK, as you may or may not have noticed. And
I've been here a long time, that's why I sound like this.
He's been Americanized a bit over the years. But he is the life of the party, if you can't tell. His jokes are hilarious.
All right. You've set the bar high.
He's a fantastic football player.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean American football.
No, I'm not good at that.
The version that he would refer to as football.
Yeah. All right, since it's the first time we're meeting, let's give a little bit of a background of our relationships, not with each other, as we've already gone through that, but with the Song of Ice and Fire books. Mackelly, you want to get us started on that?
Sure. My intro to the Game of Thrones TV series was due to your influence. You had tried for years to get me to watch it. But my wife, Stacy, who, as you know, we watch most of our TV together, she is not a fan of fantasy stuff or period pieces, so it took me a long time to get her to give it a shot. But eventually I prevailed, which was a rare for me, and I was all in. So we raced through the TV show and got caught up. Well, I think we were on season 4 or 5 at that point. But I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about the characters and events and battles that were referenced in the show, but not really fleshed out. So I picked up a Game of Thrones and started reading, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I saw the first episode probably on like an HBO free weekend or something like that, and I wasn't entirely convinced, but I'm a big fan of Lena Headey and Mark Addy and Sean Bean, so their presence in it sort of got me interested. But then it was just a free weekend, so I didn't have access to the rest of the show, and so I did what people of my generation will do, and I picked up the books and read them. And then the next one, and I just loved them all. I couldn't understand how I'd missed them the first time around. I put that down to being English and having a blind spot for things coming out of America.
So why don't you start by telling our guests what they can expect from this podcast?
So the plan is to walk through the books one chapter at a time. Today we'll be discussing the prologue. We'll discuss what's in there, point out things that we've found interesting, maybe hit on some things that you'll have missed during your reading. We'll expand on a few things, and we'll offer some insights whenever we can.
This is an important detail. Our plan is to not provide any spoilers as best we can. So if this is your first exposure to the epic story that is A Song of Ice and Fire, you can listen to this podcast immediately after reading a chapter without fearing that you're going to have spoilers or have things ruined for you that are to come.
Yeah, we'll definitely stick to that. We may, low-level spoilers about, what a certain thing means that we know from having read the rest of the book, but certainly no plot points.
Right, plot points, yes.
We'll assume that most of you have watched the show, and one of the things we'll discuss each week is deviations between the show and the books. So if you are reading the books without having watched the show, we will potentially spoil the show for you. So
True,
just be clear about that. If your intention is to watch the show and you don't want that spoiled for you, then come back to us once you finish the books and read and watch the show.
If you've watched the show but have not read the books, don't think that you know everything that's coming in the books.
Oh, yeah.
Because especially as the books go further and further, sometimes it feels like two different stories.
Yeah. I mean, it was a mammoth show, but the books are colossal, and
Yeah.
so much had to be cut by the wayside. So, let's get started. Today we're discussing the prologue to Game of Thrones. Mackelly, why don't you give us a recap, if you would?
Certainly will. Okay, so we open with Garrett, Sir Waymar Royce, and Will. They're debating whether they should continue to look for the wildling clan that they've been tracking for the past 8 or 9 days. It seems that Will has already told them that he found the wildlings dead in their camp, just lifeless bodies, no signs of struggle. This is good enough for Garrett. He assumes that they froze to death, and he's ready to return to Castle Black. Sir Waymar is not convinced. At Royce's command, Will leads them to the wildling camp. Garrett stays with the horses while Royce and Will continue on to the campsite. When Will and Royce gain the ridge overlooking the camp, they discover that it's empty. After mocking Will for a bit, Royce sends Will up a sentinel pine to look for fire from the wildlings' new campsite. While Will is in the tree, the others arrive and surround Royce, and a battle ensues. During the battle, Royce is killed by one of the others. After some time, Will, who watched all of the events unfold from up in his spot in the tree, he eventually comes down from the tree, and he bends to pick up Royce's shattered sword to bring back to Castle Black for further examination by Lord Commander Mormont and or Maester Aemon. However, when he stands, Royce's apparently reanimated corpse strangles him.
Dun, dun, dun. So, yeah. So thanks for that. So, your first reaction, Mackelly?
So, my first reaction, aside from, I think it's a really great start, it packs a lot into 7 pages or whatever it is Royce. You know, when you first read that prologue and you think about Royce, you're like, man, that guy's an idiot. Everything he did was wrong. And I think he gets a bad rap because he's kind of an arrogant ass. I mean, not kind of. He's an arrogant ass, there's no doubt. But if you think about it from his perspective, it's his first ranging, and he's got the command. He sees no reason why the wildlings would have frozen to death. He points out about the wall weeping.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly, he's not been around the Night's Watch for very long, and he doesn't trust Will or Garrett at their word.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying. I mean, I think to a certain extent he only gets a bad rap for you and me because we've read this chapter like 15 times now. I think most people who've read this chapter are going to forget Sir Waymar pretty quickly because you know his reanimated corpse is not really going to come back into the story very much. But yeah, I mean, I take your point. He is, from his perspective, it seems like Will and Garrett just want to get out of the duty that they're supposed to be, you know, performing, and so to a certain extent, you can see his motivation for being for not taking them at their word.
Yeah, he's obviously intelligent. He's the one that realizes that the wall was weeping when we left. Yeah, well, that was more than a week ago. And I have a hunch the weather changes that far north fairly quickly. And he's obviously brave. I mean, when the others surrounded him, he didn't shrink and run away and say, please don't hurt me.
I was more scared than him reading.
But did you notice that they call him my lord and lordling? I felt like that was done in mocking respect. Yeah. All 3 of them they're rangers, and he has the least amount of experience as a ranger. So I feel like they were just calling him that kind of to needle him a little bit. I don't think he realized it.
Yeah, I think that's something that's going to crop up in the book thematically over and over again, is that sort of disparity between the classes that the nobles have, you know, everything going for them, and the working man is oppressed under their heel. Being
that he has a last name,
he,
I guess, figures he's entitled to be called my lord. Yeah. So according to a wiki of Ice and Fire, because I was curious, why is he leading this? Why does he have the command? And so I was doing some research into it.
Hang on.
I know. It's how I spend my free time, as sad as that is. And it's never mentioned. So I don't know exactly where they got this information from, but according to the wiki, he was given command of the ranging because he felt it was his due, since he was a knight and the other two weren't. And Lord Commander Gior Mormont, who is referenced in the prologue, he agrees because he didn't want to offend Jan Royce, which is Sir Waymar's father, and he's a very important lord in the area known as the Vale.
Yeah, interesting.
So, maybe they just made that up.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
That's good. That's good making up stuff.
Right. It makes sense. So,
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it too. I mean, some of the themes of the book get their first airing. I think this idea that sort of ancient fairy tales coming true. I always think a fantasy book benefits from its own having legends and myths within itself.
Yeah.
It gives a sense of depth to the
Builds
whole
a world.
Yeah, exactly. I think other sort of themes that are going to come out are sort of the impetuosity of the younger nobles, like Sir Waymar, and then this
with a silver spoon in their mouth.
exactly, yeah, and then this disparity of experience. I mean, obviously, Garrett and Will are more experienced north of the Wall than Sir Waymar is, but there's also the different experience that they have. I mean, he has the better. Sir Waymar has the better horse. He has the better clothes.
Looks the part really well.
Exactly. But you know that he should be listening to them because they're the ones who know what's going on up there. So
Right.
I think that kind of theme is going to crop up again and again. Sort of like just because you're born to it doesn't mean you know it.
Right.
I think the other thing that really struck me is the scale of the maps. If you look in the front of the book, the maps, it feels like the wall is kind of as far north as you go, but they've been ranging 8-9 days north of the wall, so the scale is much bigger than you realise. You
Right.
know, this is it is a massive continent that they're on.
Yeah.
You also get some idea of some of George Martin's literary tropes, the slightly formalised English that he uses, and the stylised character names, which are a common theme throughout the book. Everyone has a name that's just slightly off from sort of like
It
normal
is.
name.
It is. I appreciate that because they're usually easy to pronounce for the
Yes,
most
that's
part.
true, yeah.
They're not like entirely fictionalized names, but they do have a Westerosi twist, usually in the spelling.
Yeah.
I think the prologue sets possibly a tone for what to expect from the rest of the book, which I guess is, in many ways, the point of a prologue. Mm-hmm. I think the fact that it ends with Will dying, I think that's possibly an important detail because, many authors might have had Will taking that shattered sword and running back to Castle Black and escaping with his life. But that didn't happen. Much to Will's
Will.
dismay, that's not how it went down. And I think maybe Martin kills him to send a message to the reader that just because you think a guy might be a good guy doesn't mean he's going to live.
Invested in this guy, are you? Well, let me show you something. Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's portents there. I mean, obviously I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a sign of things to come, perhaps.
So we have a friend. We work together, Simon and I, as well as do podcasts together. And we have a friend named Dan, and I was talking to him about this particular prologue, and he mentioned something interesting. The fact that the others make an appearance in this prologue sets the tone that mythical things like the others exist in this world. So he's already showed his hand that these things are out there. This is a world where reanimated corpses can come and attack you. So no matter how long it takes him to reintroduce mythical type elements, we know that they exist and are a possibility. So
let's talk about how it compares with the TV show. I mean, it's very similar. I mean, it's exactly the first scene of the TV show.
Yeah.
The major difference, from my recollection of the TV show, is this distance from the wall. It felt like in the TV show they were a few hours from the wall, but here they're 8 or 9 days.
Right.
Perhaps that was a conscious decision by the TV show just to introduce the wall so that we actually get to see it.
True. Yeah. It's a visual media. So.
Yeah. Yes. Do tell me more of this
giant wall.
Yeah, you actually see the trio leaving the wall. I also think it's an interesting. I mean, you have to really think about these things to find the flaws, but there is an important distinction there because if I'm manning the wall, the reanimated corpse 8 or 9 days north isn't going to affect me. But a few hours north, it feels like it's a much more immediate threat.
Right. Yeah, now, they could be knocking at the wall door.
Right. And Garrett and Will were very afraid, but they weren't experienced with this. This was not this wasn't a common event even for them.
They mentioned it several times that something was wrong. Yeah.
So that sort of gives a slightly different timeline. But I mean, otherwise, it's pretty much verbatim.
Although I feel like Will might disagree with you.
That's true. That is
if
true.
Will had to say, he would prefer it go down the way the TV show went down, because it's subtle, but not to Will so much. In the TV show, 2 of the 3 characters die. However,
they do in the book too.
Yes, it is not the same 2 of the 3. On the TV show, it is Garrett who perishes to the reanimated hand of Sir Waymar. And here in our prologue, it is Will who meets his fate in that way. I don't know why they necessarily made that decision, but
so the one other thing that I noticed was that the others don't talk in the TV show, whereas they actually do in the book. They have a couple of lines of dialogue with Sir Waymar before they kill him. I think again that's a distinction of media, because I think on the TV you don't need them to talk for them to be scary, whereas in the book just a description of them isn't going to give it, so you need to give them a little bit more in the book. So I think that's why they speak in the book.
That's a good point. I do agree. I did prefer them not to.
Me too.
Have a vocabulary.
I entirely agree. Yeah.
It's a little creepier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but in a book, they're sort of driven by dialogue.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Them just not talking is going to just become annoying rather than scary. So, background information that you wanted to share about this chapter? Remember, don't spoil.
Right, yes. As you mentioned, we have read this chapter probably 15 times each. But I was trying to think about it from a first-time reader's perspective. And I thought, what would I want to know that isn't a plotline information? Like, oh no, what's going to happen to this character? And I feel like giving some information about what this Night's Watch is. They make reference to the fact that they are brothers of the Night's Watch. What does that mean? So, the Night's Watch is a group of men that have guarded the 7 kingdoms for thousands of years from threats from north of the Wall. And they are led by a Lord Commander, not always the same Lord Commander. That would be
he'd be long in the tooth impressive.
By now. The current Lord Commander is Georg Mormont. And they wear all black.
For camouflage in the snow.
Yes, right. They maybe didn't think that through all the way. They might stand out a little bit. And because they wear all black, they're often referred to as crows or black brothers. And it's a lifelong commitment. What they do is they take an oath. They say the words as they refer to it.
Mackelly did air quotes there.
Oh, yes. That doesn't come across? I thought air quotes was a perfect way to describe I was quoting something.
Say the words was in air quotes.
Yes, they say the words. So when they do that, they swear an oath to never hold lands or father children. Along with that, they don't get involved in any affairs in Westeros. So wars between kings or between kingdoms, they don't get involved. Disputes over land, whatever. They're a separate entity from everything else in the 7 kingdoms.
Yeah, they're entirely autonomous, but I think they do ultimately report to the monarch of the 7 kingdoms. I think the monarch of the 7 kingdoms has some control over them, but...
Yes, you're right. A lot of the people that they get are not knights. They get a lot of people who are criminals. In fact, a good amount of their people are criminals who... Instead, you can either serve a sentence, be killed, or what's called take the black, which means join the Night's Watch.
It's not a particularly inspiring-looking job, I've got to say. So you pretty much have to have a pretty horrible alternative to want to do it.
Yeah.
But often it's second and third sons of lords end up going there because they have few prospects for themselves.
Right, yeah. Such as Sir Waymar.
Exactly, yeah.
Another group... Just quickly, they make reference to wildlings, and really those are just people that live north of the Wall. They call themselves free folk. They don't acknowledge the king of Westeros.
So, I don't want to give away too much, but there was sort of intentional mystery around the scary creatures that attacked.
Yeah.
So there are two different creatures. There's basically the others. The others are, I mean, I really don't want to give anything away, but the others are capable of reanimating corpses, and the reanimated corpses are known as wights. I don't think that word is used very much in the TV show, but I think it is used in the book. So there are basically two different things. There's the others and the wights, and that's WIGHT, not WHIT.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think Martin intentionally made it vague.
Yeah.
It made them not necessarily vague, but mystery, shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, exactly. So some background on some family names that get mentioned. The three that I heard were Royce, Mallister, and Mormont. The last of these is mentioned as being the authority in the Night's Watch. The Royce's home is in the Vale, in the coastal town of Runestone, allegiance to House Arryn. The Royce's words, every house has a motto known as the words. Royce's words are, "We remember," and their sigil is something like a go board with runes around it. It is. The Mallisters hail from Seaguard on the northwestern coast of the Riverlands with allegiance to House Tully. Their sigil is a silver eagle on a purple background. Their words are "above the rest," which probably annoys some of their neighbours.
Yeah. It's a little elitist, but...
The Mormonts are from Bear Island, which is off the west coast of the very far north, barely south of the Wall. As part of the North, they owe their fealty to House Stark. Their sigil is a rampant bear over a green background of trees. Their words are, "Here we stand." So we're going to talk about pedantry corner. This is a bit that I wanted this bit because I like to be pedantic. And so the one, Mackelly actually alluded to this a little bit. Royce asked Will if he'd had any shifts on the wall in the past week. But if they're 8 days ride north of the Wall, then he couldn't possibly have had. That's bad editing right there.
Unless he's got a really fast horse.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll be back. You guys go on without me. I'll catch up. That is. The math does not.
No, it definitely does not.
And there's another place where the math doesn't necessarily add up.
This one is debatable.
Right.
I don't think this one is actually wrong. I think that previous one is wrong, and the editor should have picked it up. This one is a matter of opinion. So they mentioned that Will has ranged north of the Wall 100 times,
yes,
and he's been in the Night's Watch for 4 years.
Very round number. I hope he had a good send-off for his centennial.
Perhaps he makes a mark on the wall as he leaves. So if every ranging, so this ranging that they're on now is going to be at least 16 days, because they're 8 days north of the Wall, so it's 8 days back again.
Right.
So let's say typical ranging is a week.
Yep.
Just throw that number out. That means he spent 2 of his 4 years north of the Wall. Now, this brings up the point. What are they doing?
When they're not north of the Wall?
Well, what are they doing when they are north of the Wall? I mean, the point of the Wall is to keep whatever's north of the Wall from coming south.
Right, yes.
Why go north of the Wall?
Why go north of
the
the Wall?
Wall is just really big and really in the way.
Yes.
There's not much point.
There's 700 feet tall and spans the width of the continent.
Yeah, I guess you might have to go like a couple of 100 yards north of the Wall to clear the trees and shrubbery so you get a good view of what's coming.
Aside
should the
from
wall
that.
not be enough to stop them. But it just seems strange. It feels like the wildlings are north of the Wall and they're stuck north of the Wall. Why go chasing them?
Why care what they do?
I guess intelligence gathering in case they're forming some kind of coherent force to attack the Wall. Maybe.
Right. I guess that must be what they're doing.
They did mention in the book that his Will had a gift for moving silently, and that presumably would make him a fixture of ranging. So maybe this is not pedantry.
Yeah, maybe he goes out on just about every ranging.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not a lot else to do at Castle Black.
Exactly.
Possibly.
That's true. Yeah.
I'll go.
Castle Blackboard. Let's go north of the Wall again. So, what do you think overall?
I think it's a strong start.
Me
We're
too.
off and running.
Me too.
It's a lot of good elements in there to get people curious and excited to keep reading.
Yeah, I was dragged back in again just by rereading it. So thanks everybody. I think we're really looking forward to doing this more. Obviously, the next one will be about Chapter 1. And we'll be back with you soon. Thanks for listening.
If you want to contact us...
Oh, that would be exciting.
Yeah. You can send us questions or comments, things you'd like to hear us talk about, you can send us an email at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com.
And we pretty much guarantee to read it out, at least for the first couple of episodes. 'Cause
You're going to get on air.
yeah, for sure. We're also open to sponsorship if anybody wants to sponsor us.
Yeah, hey.
We have day jobs, but, pay for the microphone, that would be nice.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, thanks, everyone.
Yes, thanks.
Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll be back with you soon.
Bye.
Bye.